Some legends aren't just stories from the past. There are these powerful chronicles of faith, echoes of an immense power, and testaments to a master who literally forged his very spirit into metal. Today, we're diving deep into one of the greatest, the sacred story of Luang Pu Nak. Right from the very beginning, you hear these words used by collectors and devotees, the legend and the master teacher. And look, this isn't just high praise for a man, it's the recognition of a whole spiritual dynasty, one that all begins with the sacred objects he created, his Phra Pidta amulets. Okay, so before we can even begin to understand the master himself, we have to talk about his masterpiece. And we're not speaking about some simple object here. We're talking about a legendary artifact, a true icon of protective power that stands completely unrivaled in its domain. Just let that title sink in for a moment. The Emperor. What does that even mean? It signifies that among all amulets of its kind, those made from that mystical mechacop metal, this one is considered the absolute pinnacle, the undisputed king. It's been famous for generations because of its unparalleled spiritual energy and just divine craftsmanship. So, the big question is, who was the man capable of forging an emperor? All right, let's shift from the legendary artifact to the extraordinary master who breathed life and power right into it. And here he is. This is Luang Pu Nak. Born way back in the early Ratanakosin period, he was a monk of profound discipline and, really, a rare spiritual insight. His entire life was this journey of pure, unwavering faith, and it all culminated in a level of mastery that, well, it seemed to transcend the physical world itself. Just imagine the scale of his first great undertaking. It was immense. In 1898, he accepted this monumental mission to build a temple in a completely wild, untamed forest, a place so dominated by crocodiles, they literally named it Huai Chorakhe, or Crocodile Creek. And for 3 years, he labored, pretty much single-handedly, turning this dangerous wilderness into a sanctuary of faith. What a feat of perseverance. It was so incredible that it was ultimately consecrated by King Rama V himself. So, the temple was built, a huge achievement. But Luang Pu Nak's most enduring legacy, that would be forged in fire. He became the master of a sacred alchemical art, the creation of mechakapahat metal. Now, this wasn't simple metallurgy, not even close. It was a ritual. Luang Pu Nak performed every single step himself, transforming base metals with sacred reagents and mystical herbs. And the result wasn't just an alloy, it was a divine substance, shimmering with this deep, iridescent black, like the wing of a jewel beetle. And get this, each amulet was perfectly formed, with no seams, no air bubbles, a true testament to his complete mastery. But believe it or not, forging the metal was only the beginning. To actually imbue the amulets with their legendary power, Luang Pu Nak performed rituals that defy any ordinary explanation, rituals that have become the very heart of his legend. And no, that's not a riddle. It's a real question that points to one of the most incredible displays of spiritual power you'll ever hear about. This is a feat that separates Luang Pu Nak from all others. The answer lies in his mastery of Apokasina, the spiritual practice of controlling the element of water. The legends say he would descend into the waters in front of his temple, inscribe each amulet with sacred characters, and then just release it. Only if the consecration was perfect, truly infused with undeniable spiritual energy, would the dense metal amulet defy nature and float to the surface where his disciples waited. Any that sank were simply deemed unworthy. And his power on land was just as mind-blowing. When he wasn't inscribing underwater, he'd go to a field, place his toe over a crab's hole, and begin his work. And as he chanted and carved, everything around him, the entire forest, would fall into this profound silence. Birds, insects, every living thing would become still, held in the stunning spell known as Vicha Chengong. Only when he finished would the world resume its song. Now, when you have power like that, word gets out. It doesn't stay confined to the wilderness. No, it reached the very highest levels of the kingdom, drawing the attention of the royal court itself. We're talking about King Rama VI and the great scholar Prince Damring Rajanubab. They made frequent visits to Wat Huai Chorakhe. And they didn't come as rulers demanding an audience, but as students of wisdom, seeking the counsel of this revered forest monk. And in a truly profound gesture, Luang Pu Nak personally bestowed one of his Phra Pidta amulets upon the king himself to wear for his protection. I mean, that's the ultimate testament, isn't it? A monarch, the sovereign of an entire nation, placing his faith in the sacred power forged by this humble forest master. So why was this amulet sought after, even by a king? Well, it was believed to bestow 4 profound blessings. First, Metta Mahaniyam, the power to attract kindness and favor, ensuring goodwill from everyone you meet. Second, Cleo Kalad, the grace to avert and escape unforeseen danger. Third, Mahaut, a legendary invulnerability, famously known as the stopping of guns. And finally, a spiritual shield offering protection from all forms of dark magic and malevolent spirits. Luang Pu Nak passed away in 1910, but a power like his doesn't just vanish, it endures. It's inscribed not just on metal, but on the very soul of Thai faith. He is revered as the Padma Charm, the Grand Master, the originator of this entire sacred lineage. And before his passing, he transmitted his knowledge to his chosen disciple, Luang Pu Suk, ensuring the sanctity and power of Wat Huai Chorakhe would continue to protect the faithful for generations to come. Ultimately, the story of Luang Pu Nak and his amulet is just such a powerful reminder. It teaches us that true power isn't just about what's seen, but about the unseen force of will, of discipline, and of an unwavering belief. It's a legend forged from metal, yes, but it's immortalized by a power of faith that, just like his perfected amulets, will never sink beneath the tides of time.